The Islamic State may not be the first thing you think about when you think of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But surprisingly enough, the colorful cast of the MCU has expressed thoughts and beliefs that make some of them fit right in with ISIS. So let's just jump into it and rank how likely these beloved characters would be willing to join the Islamic State. First off, you've got Wong. While he may seem like an honorable individual dead set on helping Doctor Strange, he is one of the more amoral characters in the Marvel lineup. At times, it seems as though he's willing to do anything it takes for the greater good, so I could see him siding with ISIS if he thought that it would be beneficial to the realm. But other than that, there isn't really that much to go off of with him, which is why he's the least likely character to join the Islamic State. If he did join the Islamic State, then that would be the Wong thing to do. Dr. Bruce Banner is next, and you might be surprised when you hear why he would join the Islamic State. You think of the Hulk, you usually think of his big green antics. But if you remember all the way back to the Edward Norton Hulk, he was all about studying nuclear physics. ISIS tried to make a nuclear bomb in 2014, so there is the potential for an uneasy alliance between the two, so that Bruce would have the potential to study some gamma radiation. However, there are other ways that he could do this research that don't involve joining a militant Islamist group, so he's near the bottom. Carol Danvers, however, wouldn't hesitate too much in joining the self-proclaimed caliphate. Since she's spent 23 years protecting the universe outside of Earth, chances are she'd be completely out of touch with human politics. I can easily see ISIS or some other terrorist cell convincing her that they were actually the good guys, and that all Shia Muslims were actually Skrulls in disguise. She was also a member of the US Air Force. I can easily see a scenario where she uses her aeronautical prowess to help ISIS in its military campaigns in western Syria. In Phase 1 of the MCU, S.H.I.E.L.D. plays a significant role in bringing the main characters together. S.H.I.E.L.D. is an American extra-governmental counterterrorism agency, which seeks to keep national and global security. Considering the fact that Nick Fury is the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that S.H.I.E.L.D. is a counterterrorism agency, you'd think that he wouldn't be willing to join the Islamic State. But the true allegiances of S.H.I.E.L.D. always remained murky. I think that if a person with superpowers emerged from the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, then Nick Fury would be willing to temporarily put aside foreign policy initiatives and ally S.H.I.E.L.D. with ISIS. Steve Rogers is a character who, during the events of Avengers: Civil War, becomes disillusioned with the United Nations as well as the United States. In a similar vein, the Islamic State is a fierce opponent of these two bodies. Steve also has some experience in dealing with terrorists in the same region that ISIS controlled, meaning that he would already be familiar with their region and culture. For these reasons, I can see Steve Rogers joining the radical militant group, and maybe becoming an icon of theirs. A Captain ISIS, if you will. Much of the infamy surrounding ISIS originates from their execution videos, which served as a kind of perverse viral marketing campaign for the group. By filming graphic executions with such high-quality production, they were able to spread their message internationally. J. Jonah Jameson, host of thedailybugle.net, most likely stumbled across these videos at some point, considering how his job is reporting news through the internet. I think that this kind of unhinged violence would be the thing that could really inspire Jameson to try and take out Spider-Man once and for all. If ISIS were to contact Jameson and collaborate with him on fighting the Masked Menace, then he'd probably join forces with them. While the Daily Bugle turning into ISIS propaganda may seem absurd, remember that the Green Goblin was once able to control the company. One of the lesser-known heroines of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Kate Bishop is the apprentice to Clint Barron, or Hawkeye. What many people don't know about her character is that she has murderously anti-Zionist beliefs, and has gone on record as saying that Israel must be destroyed, at whatever cost necessary. Her main enemy, Wilson Fisk, or the Kingpin, is from New York City. Almost a fifth of New York City is Jewish, so it can be presumed that the Kingpin is at least part Jewish as well. While ISIS wanted to overthrow the existing governments of all the Muslim-majority countries, it especially wanted to destroy Israel. For this reason, there's a decent chance that Kate Bishop would want to join the Islamic State. When you watch Iron Man from 2008, it's really striking just how different it is from all the other MCU movies. Everything feels so much more weighty and real. Stark Industries supplied munitions to militias all over the world, notably including the Ten Rings. The Ten Rings is basically ISIS. And while it's true that this was the doing of his evil partner and not Tony Stark himself, I still think that he wouldn't really have cared about this if he hadn't personally been kidnapped by the terrorist organization. Thus, if he ever came upon the actual ISIS, he would have been content to secretly sell them whatever weapons they desired. Through this means, he may have been able to obtain honorary ISIS membership. I briefly mentioned Clint Barron earlier, and Hawkeye himself would be even more willing to join the Islamic State. When Clint Barron took up the Ronin moniker and started massacring criminals, he killed people involved with the tracksuit mafia in New York City, the Yakuza in Japan, and even the entire Mexican cartel. Given the fact that he doesn't let the law stand in his way, he'd certainly be willing to join an extremist group such as ISIS. Now, I bet you're thinking, if he was trying to murder criminals, then wouldn't it make more sense for him to go after ISIS instead? I would agree with you, but let's take into account his Ba'athist ideology and his status as a native Iraqi. He has expressed contempt for the US-backed government that came into power in 2005, so he would likely view the politicians of the Republic of Iraq as being criminals. Consequently, Clinton would logically ally himself with ISIS to help rid his native country of this criminal influence. Adrian Toombs, or the Vulture, would have a very similar motivation for joining the Islamic State. Once the federal government colluded with Stark Industries to help clean up New York, this put Adrian's business out of work. This resentment toward the US government would be a great motivating factor for him to join ISIS. He's also evil for no reason, like many of the MCU antagonists, so he would probably approve of all their genocides and war crimes. Next up is Dormammu, a primordial lifeform that lives within the Dark Dimension. Dormammu just wants to conquer every universe in the multiverse, but he hasn't been able to conquer the Earth's universe, which is why he would want to foster as much chaos and disorder on Earth as possible, so that he would be able to subjugate the planet much more easily. He would contact a member of ISIS in a similar manner to how he did with Caecilius, and have them do his bidding within the confines of Ayat's territory. The writers at Marvel really outdid themselves when they wrote Mysterio into Far From Home as a twist villain. MCU Mysterio is really pragmatic and amoral, so I can see him joining with the Islamic State if it were in his best interest. If you'll recall back to that movie, he had a bunch of drones doing his bidding. The Global Coalition intervention against ISIS heavily utilized drones, so he'd know a thing or two about how to fight them. Mysterio is also one of the few MCU characters who is canonically Islamic, thanks to a Far From Home deleted scene in which he swears to wage holy war on the Kafir. Perhaps the most memorable thing to come out of Phase 4, Kang the Conqueror only wants to conquer and destroy as many universes as possible. For this reason, he would see the violent methods of the Islamic State as inspiring, and would seek out membership in the militant group. However, it's unlikely that they would want anything to do with him, as Kang loses to ants. The second most likely MCU character to join ISIS is none other than Thanos himself. As Thanos wants to reduce all life in the universe to approximately half of what it currently is, it's just logical that he would support an organization that tries to kill everybody who isn't a Sunni Muslim. While he may not agree with the ideological aspects of their operation, he would certainly love to see the results of their jihad. Realistically, he would probably just send one of the Black Order or the Children of Thanos to help ISIS, but I'd say that still counts as the Mad Titan joining the Islamic State. This is the moment you've been waiting for. The reveal of which individual MCU character would be the most likely to join the ranks of the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. I'm sure many of you have already guessed who it is. That's right, it's none other than MODOK, formerly known as Darren Cross, or the Yellow Jacket. He's actually a member of ISIS already, having sworn allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi in 2014. He took part in the fall of Mosul, the second largest city in Iraq, when he fought through his sleeper cell. Members of his cell were tasked with assassinating high-ranking Iraqi police officers, a task MODOK ruthlessly undertook. And there you have it. Out of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, an astonishingly high number of characters would be perfectly willing to join ISIS. The only other franchise with a comparable number would be the Wizarding World of Harry Potter,